There we go. Done. Okay, so welcome everyone. Just to give you a little bit of background why we are doing the full nerd sort of Wemmer Zoom calls. The intention was we were at SA Champs. We ended up speaking to Rika, Ramon. We spoke to Ramon. I spoke to some of the other guys from sort of Ravens, and we sort of realized there was a ton of knowledge out there that we could try sort of spread around all the sort of new masters coming through or masters coming back to rowing. So we just plan to do at this stage five sessions. The topics are probably going to be today's one, which is masters training programs, what to do, what not to do. We're thinking about the next one being technique. And again, we're not going into sort of super detail, but just some basics that will improve people's rowing and just make people enjoy rowing a little bit more. The third one could be interesting. That's just setting your boats up better. The conversation I have with Rob all the time is to go, the first thing you should do is just check that your boat is set up decently. So just a little bit about the language, what you should be looking at, not down to millimeters, but just being clever about how you set up your boats. Then what should be quite a fun one is the fourth one, where we want to hear potentially from Sam, Colleen, Zach, anybody else who's attended a Masters regatta overseas, just to share some photos and videos of what's, what they got up to, so we can get a feel of what that's like. And then our fifth topic at this stage is preventative maintenance. And that's just as we get older, how do we keep our bodies okay? And we know there's a couple of people in the community who are physios, chiros, sports doctors, just some clever stuff to, keep us upright, etc. The intention really is it's a community thing. If there's a topic you want to chat about or you find this one interesting, shout. As you said, it's 5 at the moment. We'll see where it goes, but nothing more than that. Just a little bit about the format. We've tried to keep them short and sweet. We don't want people to say, this whole thing took an hour. So it's 30 minutes of sort of interviewing of our guests on the night. And then at the end, we'll open up to 10 minutes of Q&A. But we obviously stop the recording after the 30 minutes, let people who want to go off to supper or pick up kids or whatever they have to do sort of leave. And then we've got 10, 15 minutes left at the end just to have a chat. This week, as I said earlier on, we're just muting everyone just to see how that works. But feel free, and hopefully everyone knows how to operate Zoom, to type any questions or comments. We'll capture them on the side. And we can use those at the end. All ideas, thoughts, comments, welcome. Again, we've got no intention for this to be anything super sophisticated. It's very informal. It's very experimental. We're testing everything out. The intention is just get some knowledge out there, have some conversation with people. And on that, I just want to check if Ramon has joined us as yet. He hasn't. I'm going to give a quick look. It's not there yet. So we're actually going to start now with you, Rika. So welcome. You, for those who don't know, Rika represented South Africa, obviously, in rowing, and is also an Olympian. But she's also, what I'm enjoying is Rika's representing Elgin Rowing Club. And for a lot of us on this call and people who listen in, don't know about Elgin, don't know a lot about Western Cape, and definitely don't know about the water you row on. Do you mind starting off just giving us a bit of background about Elgin Rowing Club, where you row, and then also feel free to market the regatta that's coming up. And while you do that, I'm going to share some of the photos you shared with us just so people can get a bit of a feel. Is that okay, Rika?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ben. So me and Wynand are the very active, kind of probably only members, I think, of Elgin. Elgin was a really big rowing club probably 10, 15 years ago. It was started by Hans Post. I don't know if you saw the notice earlier, maybe 6 weeks ago, that Hans Post passed away, and they had a little function for him here. Elgin is kind of the valley of Elgin, so it's just kind of the Grabouw area. So as you pass from, let's say, the airport through Somerset West, Strand, Gordons Bay, up the pass, and then you hit the little valley of Elgin, and then you drive through Grabouw, and then the Eikenhof Dam is just on the side of it. During winter, we have about a 2,000 meter straight course. And then it is it belongs to the farmers, Groenland Water Mountain, or Mountain Water Project. They then pump it for the fruits, mostly apples and pears. And then sometimes we we spend more time carrying our boats down to the water, and sometimes we only have about 1,000 meters to row on. It's an incredibly beautiful place to row. When it's flat water like this, there's nowhere else that I think I would prefer to row. I think I also sent you a video of blue cranes. We have a blue crane breeding pair, so there's anywhere between 2 and 5 blue cranes around. The Elgin Grabouw Country Club, also very popular for other events. We've had the Wines to Wales come through. If you look across this photo specifically, that's part of the Cape Epic route. And then one of the mountains there where your mouse cursor is, it looks kind of like a castle, that one gets snow mostly in August. So the course on this photo, the one further to the left, on this photo, the starting line would be to the right, and this is kind of the last 500 meters. And we don't get, unfortunately, in summer, we get very little rowing time because it's howling. You cannot even get your boat out the shed. If you manage to get it out, it's highly unlikely that you'll be able to get into it. You'll just be smashed on shore, and it can go for days where we just come and watch. We play lotto with the weather forecast. It's probably accurate, maybe 60%, and it's also very, very unpredictable. The water would look like this, and then you get down to the 2K mark, and there'll be a slight swell, and you think it's some motorboat or some coach waking you down, and you know you're the only one on the water, and then 2 minutes later it's howling and your boat's about to go down. I've been blown off the course kind of at the start, and I had to sit there for quite some time before I could get back on my boat and limp back to the boat shed. Yeah, so that's about
Rika,
it.
with regards to the Elgin Regatta, you've actually sourced most of the boats for everybody who's coming to visit. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm also renting them out. I haven't received any deposits yet, so it's kind of 1,000 rand a race if you want to book that now, type of thing. No, I have no idea what's going on with the Elgin Regatta. I just saw the notice. I believe it's between Ken and the rest of Western Cape, Westpro, whoever organized these regattas. Yeah. I believe the entry date is, well, the closing date is what, sometime beginning June. We'll definitely have enough water. Don't worry. It wasn't a warm summer, if you can call it summer, so there's more than enough water. But get used to what we call the Elgin Standard, which is a nice bumpy crosswind in the middle 1,000. So we'll probably start then. If it's not like this, it's probably not rowable. There's very seldom days in between.
Excellent. I think it's the 17th of June, the regatta, because it's day after the public holiday. So a lot of people are flying in, and I think they're spending 3 days there, 16th, 17th, and 18th. We've seen quite a lot of interest after the latest Masters camp that they had this weekend. So a lot of people are putting their names down for that and getting into teams to see who's going to row with who. Looks good.
Yeah, lekker. It will be nice to have a Masters regatta. You know, we feel that, you know, as the Western Cape, we travel everywhere. You know, we go up to East London, and it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of Gauteng representatives this time around. We also went up to SHM, so it will be nice for you guys to come down here a little bit and enjoy rowing in the Western Cape.
I look forward to it. I'm definitely teeing it up and getting ready for that, because it's looking. I think you sold it to me, Rika. I think I bumped into you. I didn't know who you were at that stage, but at Buffalo. And I think you had mentioned that it was you row and there's snow all around you. And I'm going, oh, these people with their marketing skills, they're brilliant. Because I thought that sounds pretty cool. Because over here it gets very cold and it's very difficult to row with, and you're always blowing on your hands because your hands are too cold. So I was thinking, I wonder what the temperatures are like there at that time of year and how cold it is.
Elgin, well, Eikenhof Dam has its own weather system. It's quite often that look, most of the time I go barefoot. So when I put on shoes, people know it's really cold.
Oh, wow.
So I would put in shoes and long pants and jackets and things, and then I just go across the N2 to go to Peregrine for, put that on the marketing list, a Peregrine pie, to go for a pie. And people are like, "Are you sick? What's the matter?" They're in shorts and flip-flops, and then I start sweating, and I do look sick because it's so hot. And then I drive 5 minutes to my house, and it's freezing again.
Yeah.
They have measured -12, -15 here. There has been a couple of times when my car didn't start. Compared to what I remember rowing at Regatta in winter, it's toasty and Regatta.
Mhm.
Let's jump into questions. And sorry, I was just in the background there trying to make sure we could get the link into Ramon. So he's got it now via email. He couldn't click through from WhatsApp, so he'll join us now. But Rika, let's jump in. The first question, I mean, this is about masters training. Your view on what masters should be doing more of, and why?
Well, we might have to pin, like, who are we looking for? Because masters started, what, 27? All the way up to what, 80? Well, until how much older you want to run. So you have to look at who you're looking. It's, is it somebody, is it an early 30s male that retired after the 2016 Olympics? Or is it late 40-year-old woman that has had 4 children, 2 cesarean sections, and has never rowed before? So now I was like, here you go, you're a masters rower. It's like, well, it's 2 very different things.
So I'll narrow it down for you. Let's go 40 to 50-year-old male, relatively fit. And what would you be recommending? What are you and Wynand getting up to? What would you be recommending?
Well, kind of what I told Wynand, sy is oor die muur, oud, is verby, daar's geen hoop eintlik nie. So it was, we do a lot of technique drills, or a lot of drills, and a lot of restorative exercise. So my thing is, if you cannot get to the front of it or at the bottom of the squat comfortably, here barefoot, you space your feet maybe hip width apart or just a fist apart. If you cannot sit there for 10 minutes comfortably, then I don't waste my time really with too much technique coaching, because I'm going to tell you to go to full slide. I'm going to tell you to sit up. I'm going to tell you to get your shoulders up and get good alignment, but you can't get there no matter how hard you try. So what I prefer to do is spend a lot of time on the rowing machine, coaching technique there, and then an enormous amount of movement sequencing, getting the alignment points in the body correct, and then also starting or working with some of the fascia lines.
Okay, that's interesting. And then I see Ramon has been out to join us. Ramon, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. How's it, guys?
Perfect. How's it? Sorry about that. We're setting up the link. So just to introduce Ramon quickly. Ramon is actually very interesting. I think you are the most broadly spread South African rowing community member. What I mean by that is you rowed Transvaal schools, you rowed junior national squad, you rowed under 23 national squad, you rowed the senior national squad, you have got an Olympic medal, you've helped out with sponsorship, you've considered building a dam in Modderfontein, you have a hotel called The Blades. So that's just a little bit of a background about Ramon, and a little thing about his Olympic medal. For a long time before his wife took over, the medal used to be kept in his sock drawer, and that sort of just tells you about the humility. Ramon, we're talking training programs.
Yeah.
What do you think masters should be doing, and why?
Well, obviously it depends where you are in the spectrum, but I caught a little bit. Hi, Rika, how are you doing?
Hi, Ramon.
Yeah, like I caught a little bit. She was talking about range of motion. So I think that's the main thing, actually. That's the starting point, because what I'm finding in a lot of the crews, the guys really struggle with range of motion. And then to fix that, you generally got to lose quite a lot of weight. You got to start stretching. So those were all the starting points for us. You there?
Or Ben, just going through a technical video setup here. Ramon, when you're speaking about flexibility in the boat or range of motion, are you talking about flexibility when you say range of motion? Because is it the ability of being able to go through the whole stroke?
Yeah.
You've got to bear in mind, you're 40, you've made certain decisions in life. You may have been eating a little bit and have put on a bit of weight. Things may have changed for you. So is that part of that whole process?
Yeah, I think that's where you actually make the most gains, is getting to a point where you're able to just row a full stroke again. And once you've got to that point, you know, a lot of masters might be able to get there, and then they can start working on strength and fitness and stuff like that. But definitely there's a lot of boat speed just out of rowing a full stroke. So that's for me, it was definitely the first port of call.
And so both of you, Rika and Ramon, what are you talking about as in exercises? What are you doing on a weekly basis to, if someone's, you know, you ankles aren't flexible, knees aren't flexible, hips aren't flexible, what are you doing and how are you balancing that? And I'm going to take you guys back to the comments you made at Senior Champs about just increasing power as well.
Yeah, so you know, for me it was weight loss and quite a bit of stretching. I still got a way to go. Stretching of the, you know, the hips, getting mobility back in the hips. Like you said, ankles, hamstrings are a big one. Glutes, they get very tight, and that's quite debilitating when it comes to rowing if your hamstrings are very tight. And you find that you're able to tap into more muscle contraction when you are more flexible. So just by being flexible, you'll be able to access more power and a better stroke. And then you can start, you know, I started doing a bit of gym and started on the leg press and squats and bench press just to try and get a bit of strength going. Because obviously this is over 1,000 meters. So I think it does shift a little bit towards being able to be a bit stronger. I think that helps you achieve those peak speeds that you need to if you want to try win a 1,000-meter race.
But Ramon, if you're speaking like that, I mean, in terms of flexibility, would you say, I mean, if you stuck like biltong, would you say, well, you know, go do a yoga class or go to a Pilates class and really focus on the flexibility before you actually get into the boat? Or can you do both hand in hand?
Yeah, I think you can do it together. I think you just feel your rowing improving as you get more flexible. So you got to, I mean, you got to keep rowing and try and improve your technique. But the more flexible you get, you'll feel your boat speed improve, and you'll feel the more consistent your strokes are, the better. Yeah.
Rika, so you were talking about exercises and things that you sort of work on and focus on. What would you give as a nice practical example? Again, someone getting up to row this weekend, what would you add to the program?
Can we backtrack a little bit? You know, we talk about flexibility, stretching, and mobility, and what the definitions are for those. Like I think stretching is, it's like, oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, eat food or don't eat food. You know, like it's massive. And you mentioned, do you go into Pilates or yoga? Which kind of yogas do you go into? Do you go to the power ones? Do you go, you know, just at the Virgin Active? And how do you know that you have enough? You know, just for now, for lack of free-flowing conversation, that you have enough flexibility. You know, because can you touch your toes? Well, can you touch your toes with straight legs? Can you touch your toes with good alignment between the pelvis and the rib cage? Like, where are your tight things? The body doesn't work alone. It's not like, oh, my hamstrings are tight. It's like you are tight overall. And then when you talk about, you know, the restorative exercise that we do, there's very specific alignment points. So let's do a quick example. If you spread your hand and, you know, you put it on the table. So at the moment, I'm just leaning forward on my desk. And then you turn your elbow pit forward. So your middle finger is facing forward. You're looking for 90 degrees between your middle finger and your thumb. while the shoulder is straight over the thumb and you have both of the veins, the veins where you would donate blood, is facing in the line of the middle finger. And you want a flat palm. So those are very specific points that we look in the body. Are you too tight or are you too loose? If you are too loose, you have to go and find the part where you are too tight. And you continuously, we refer to as the tensegrity model. And there is always something, like you pull here and something goes out there. So you have to continuously work the whole thing. And the longer you work, the more you think like, oh, I thought my right hip was a problem, but actually it's like my left wrist. I should get through all the layers.
Okay.
So it can be very specific. So you say, oh, it's now Thursday evening. I'm going to go and row 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, because in Cape Town it's only light at 10 or at 8, so we can sleep and there's cycle stretching. My first one would probably be I refer to the shin box or windshield wiper, so I can start getting into the hips. There's very specific points that I want you to keep on, so that you go into the hips and you don't go into the shoulders and lower back thinking that you are loosening your hips. There are so many different versions of, some people call it shin box, some people call it windshield wiper, some people call it 90-90, depending on what philosophy or what group you are working. I think I was quite involved in the CrossFit world for quite some time, and the easy guy to follow is Kelly Starrett. He has great videos on YouTube. Kelly Starrett.
Okay, yeah.
His thing is now called the Ready State. He was also very involved at CrossFit at some point and has moved away a little bit, kind of doing his own thing. He has some really good exercises. He backs it up with some good explanations. I think the hip drive and rowing is very important. I focus a lot also on foot mobility, foot and ankle. So if you don't have good big toe mobility, you can't access your glutes. Also, if you can't bend your big toe and your feet kinks out, then the midfoot collapses, the ankle collapses, the knee collapse, and you go into a tucked pelvis, and then you just hang on in your lower back. So I spend an enormous amount of time on foot mobility and foot strength as well, because that for me is also your connection point to the boat. That's where you feel how heavy it is, how hard it is, am I full slide, am I quarter slide, tailwind, headwind, and that you could connect all the way from feet to hands.
I'm going to cut in now a little bit, Rika. Sorry, I'm just conscious sort of time. I want to bring back obviously to you and Ramon. So very interesting, and actually there's another course, Ramon, when you weren't on, the 4th or 5th session we'd like to do, we're calling preventative maintenance, and it's interesting how a lot of what's been spoken about tonight could be used there. Is really to say, how do you set your body up for success, doing well, and also just maintaining, as you said, if you keep the flexibility and everything in the right place, chances are you're less likely to have sort of injuries. For now, and just conscious that we've got probably 3 or 4 minutes left of having the conversation with the two of you, I want to challenge you guys to think about what would you do, and I'm going to share my screen quickly, and apologies, we lost our camera, as you would on the first time around. If you guys were to be, you were coaching a group of masters, and again, to help that out, Rika, we're going to talk masters who are, sorry to narrow it down. So again, I'm going to say 40 to 50 years old, in fairly decent nick, and just looking 17 weeks to go to masters. What would you be doing with those crews? And I don't want to get into the technicalities of feet and hips, and I know the importance of that. But in a general week, how many times are you rowing? How many times are you getting on the ergo? Are you doing gym? Are you doing something like CrossFit? Are you balancing that with some cardio? What would you guys say between you? And we're actually going to capture it so that it's almost like a doggy bag, something for anyone listening can take away. They can look at what they're doing during the week and go, that's more than I do, that's less than I do. And I fully appreciate, if you're brand new to rowing, you should be rowing as much as possible and getting your technique right. But as a general sort of rule, what would you guys be doing on a Monday? What would you be doing, Ramon?
So how many kids do the guys have between 40 and 50?
You see, I'm the same as Ramon, because I'm thinking, is it a mother that we're talking about? Does she
Yeah,
have
yeah.
kids?
So let's just go me, generic, 2 kids, 1 wife.
Yes.
So I'm rowing weekend. I'm trying to fit gym in twice a week, and I'm trying to stretch whenever I can. So I'm
So
predominantly,
rowing on the weekend, gym twice a week.
if I can fit 1 session during the week, I fit it in.
Yeah.
I don't find, and I came from a very bad place from a fitness point of view. I don't find, for me, the fitness part is the limiting factor. I find it's more technique and, like I said, being able to row the full stroke, full length,
The flexibility.
and get the crew to row together.
Yeah.
So for us, we technically working as crews and trying to just, we discuss rowing quite a bit and trying to just get analogies going of what it is we want to feel in the boat and how do we want to achieve the time that we're going for, you know. So for us, we'd like to, you know, Coxless 4, row 305, 304. We haven't got there yet, but we're just constantly just trying to row together, do the same things. And then in that discussion, you work out where your limiting factors are, and you just try and improve those. That some of them, like we said in the beginning, would be flexibility, range of motion. Other guys, it's strength. I think some guys are super fit and they're very weak. So they should try and really work on leg conditioning, core, working on their stomach, you know, to be able to, bottom line is you got 3 minutes. You got to try and hit a relatively high boat speed. And that comes through strength. Yeah.
So I'm going to summarize that. So Ramon, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, so you're trying to row more. So I mean, just so people know, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, you know, you lost 20 kilograms. So that's massive.
Yeah.
So if you're carrying some extra weight,
That's
so if you're carrying some extra weight, try to get rid of it. Secondly, then what you're saying is 3 minutes. It really is leg speed. So it's power. And that's both in the boat and in the gym, just training that idea of explosive strength. And again, you're just balancing. You're trying to get 2 or 3 rows in a week, decent. And again, I'm guessing that's an hour long or a little bit longer, what, 10, 12, 14 Ks? Yeah. And then in the gym, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, an hour twice a week. Yeah.
And
that's where I am. I can't handle more than that. But the biggest thing is
leg press, and you're going for
the basics. It's just the basics: leg press, core, a bit of balancing with the chest, but really just trying to condition my legs, because you do feel like they fatigue. And if you can prolong that fatigue a little bit longer, then you're going to go a bit quicker.
Okay, cool. Rika, how would you see it? What would you be doing? What's your program looking like?
Well, we'll tell you kind of what we in Vaal has been doing. We try to row on Mondays and Fridays, and then also try on Saturdays, Sundays. And sometimes there have been times where we haven't been able to get on the water for 3 weeks, and sometimes we do manage twice a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, about an hour of restorative exercise. On Wednesdays, it's some kind of mix of, we do a lot of kettlebell swings, wall balls, dumbbell stuff. Pretty much we train what we can train on the water and train at your home gym. So we haven't introduced really heavy lifting going to the gym. Most of the sessions are under an hour. It's only recently that we started to row more than 8 kilometers on the water.
Sure.
Sometimes it was wind, sometimes it wasn't the wind.
Yeah.
And I do a lot. There's some kind of rehab, prehab thing pretty much every day.
Okay. And for both of you, when you're rowing, is it just get on the water and, as you said, do 6 Ks, 10 Ks, 12 Ks, relatively steady? Or is there a matter of doing intervals, power strokes, pyramids, anything built in like that? And I'm going to ask it first of you, Ramon. You're talking leg strength, explosive power.
Yeah.
Are you guys?
Our sessions on the weekend are pretty intense.
Okay.
We do 2000s every Sunday at various rates, but generally they're pretty intense. If we get a session in the week, on the Saturday, the guys are focusing on the technique and trying to row together.
Okay.
But we're really trying to work hard when we're on the water, because it's so limited the time that you have, you know.
Yeah. So you're really focusing in on what makes a difference in the time. You guys have actually, as a crew, set a time, you're targeting towards that. Everyone's doing their own little bit of things. As you said, some guys need some more power. They might be doing a little bit more gym. Other guys are losing weight. Other guys are working on flexibility. But you guys are looking at 2 to 3 sessions a week. 2 of them steady state, just really thinking about rowing together. But then you are throwing at least once a week, 2 times 1,000 meters. And I put you close to race pace. Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, it always ends up there. The guys will say, no, we're doing 2000s, one at 32 and one at 34, but it'll be like 36 and flipping flat out on the second one, you know. So but that's what it is. We enjoy rowing. You know, it's at a point where, you know, the camaraderie is good. We like to give it horns. It feels good when a boat's going fast. It feels good when the guys are rowing together. So that's what we go out there to do, I suppose, every weekend.
And can I ask a question? And I noticed it straight away, because novices are probably always scared they're going to fall in the water, and even when they start rowing, so they tend to stay on the erg quite a lot. So a lot of their work is done on the erg. Ramon, do you do any erg whatsoever?
No, I do. I haven't lately because we've been working quite hectically, but yeah, it obviously helps. There's guys within our squad that do quite a bit of erg.
Okay.
So.
And what is quite a bit of erg? Are they getting on and doing 10-minute pieces, 20-minute pieces, row for an hour? What do you think the guys are doing?
Yeah, I think they're generally doing, you know, like 5K pieces. So they're breaking it up, but they try and make up an 8K per session.
Okay.
And then
again,
again, the guys are also working and feeling out things where they feel like they're lacking.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of it, and this is part of the challenge is these are guys who know their bodies. They know, again, you've evaluated yourself. You've said, get weight sorted out. You know, you've got some strength, but you've worked out flexibility, feet, knees. These are things that other people new to rowing haven't even started to think about. So that's the luxury. You've got a crew of guys who are going, what am I missing? What do I need to work on? For a lot of obviously other people, they're going, where do I start? I just need to get fit in it. Rika, just quickly again. So you're looking to row obviously as much as you guys can, and you guys are being dictated to by the wind. So if you get a chance to get on, you get on. When you're getting on, what are you doing in the rowing boat? Same question. Is it as much steady state, just pure technique flow, or are you throwing into 1,000 meter pieces or anything shorter?
Up to now, it's been mainly technique. We do a lot of, we start off arms and body, half slide, full slide, pausing, front end roll. I also row in circles, just with one hand to get that. I think it might be different if I was rowing on a 4 or an 8 versus the single. I don't necessarily enjoy competition so much anymore. I really enjoy rowing my single well. Doesn't mean I'm against the competition. If I can row well in a competition, that's great. But that's not my focus or my goal. If I never have to compete again, that'll be fine too, but I'll still continue. And I just really, really enjoy rowing well in the single. And you know when you're rowing well in a single or not. We haven't done.
What is rowing in circles?
You row in a circle with one blade at a time to work on catch placement, early square.
So you're going to balance with one hand and just basically just get the one hand right.
Just the front end, yeah.
Okay, interesting, cool. And again, so you guys have just gone for technique. You're not throwing in any pieces. I mean, I assume when the boat is feeling nice, if the rate picks up, the rate picks up, but you're not deliberately going out and doing pieces or pyramids or anything like that.
Not yet. Wynand, sorry for using you as an example, but first we had to get Wynand to row well in the single. So I see no point smashing pieces up at stroke rate 34, but you're basically giving yourself whiplash and your boat's not going to last more than one season.
Yeah.
I last year was very sick. I ruptured my appendix and I'm still kind of on the recovery road from that. So stroke rate 18 was high. If I could row at stroke rate 7, that would be fine. It took me a long time to come back. So it doesn't mean we will never do that. It's just for me, it's learn how to row the single well. The single for me is almost a different boat class than any of the other things. It's learn to row the single well, and then you can start rating high. Otherwise, you're going to rate high and your boat's going to go nowhere. But we will be going into more higher rates now.
Yeah, we need you on the next call on technique. We'll have a conversation about this. The last question, because then we do want to open it up to questions from people. So if people have got questions, get ready. I don't know if there's a hand function.
They can put it in the chat. So
put it in the chat and we'll bring you on. So just very quickly, and sorry, I'm harping on the physical side. You mentioned so we've understood the restorative side, but obviously that needs some expertise. You need someone to be able to look, analyze, and give you the right thing. We might actually do a call on that because that sounds very interesting. But when it comes to, you spoke about home gym, kettlebells, you both spoke about core. Just give me a couple of examples, weights, drills, something you're doing. Again, to get the physicality, and so people are aware. Vainant is a large guy. I would guess he is incredibly strong. I've only raced against him once. He's a powerful guy. What are you guys doing? What sort of drills? What is the kettlebell gym session?
The kettlebell gym session. Look, he has a kettlebell at 24. It's time for him to go up to the 32. And a 25-pound wall ball. So one of the sessions I give is you do 10 wall balls, 1 kettlebell swing, 9 wall balls, 2 kettlebell swing, and you just move up and down like that. And that's sometimes we do twice, combined with a little bit of oak technique or some of the restorative exercise things. I don't think we do anything specific, Russian twists or planks or things. I think if you work with me, if I give you planks or send you out for a run, you must take me to hospital because something's wrong. I am not a fan of planks at all. My last thing is you go and buy yourself a rope, you follow David Wake on Instagram, and you swing the rope, and there's your core exercise.
Say that again. It's the rope exercise, and it's David
Wake.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again, so people know kettlebells, you're talking about almost that the motion I would call like being the clean. Is that what we're talking about? So it's glutes, hamstrings, back,
core, arms. It depends. We can do goblet squats, one arms. We can do clean and jerk, snatches, kettlebell figure eights. There's a massive kettlebell library that you can do as well.
And your preference for that is, and sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're looking for dynamic movement, explosive movement, and all that core strength, all the balancing. Is that the reason you're going for something like kettlebells?
I'm going for the rhythm.
Oh, okay.
You need to find a continuous rhythm, and there's also grip strength involved. So if you start to fail, you lose the rhythm. And what happens in the singles, you don't have a buddy to help you balance the boat and help you keep the rhythm. If you wobble in the single, that's it. Yeah. So I'm looking for things. All the things that I bring, there's not so much rhythm in restorative exercise, but the rope, landmine training, kettlebell, club bell, like even with a wall ball, there is a very specific rhythm.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'm going to stop you both there. Just for everybody who's on the call, what we do want to do, and sorry, we are running a little bit of overtime. We'll try and make sure we're better next time. Just a couple of adverts so people know what's going on. And again, if you have anything you want the rest of the community to hear about, just shout, drop us a mail or something, and we'll put it on. So coming up already next weekend up in Gauteng, Vikings and Wemmer are putting a social regatta on. That's at Wemmer Pan. Wemmer Pan, for those up in Gauteng, it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes away. It's worth going to the regatta just to go see. That's where Gauteng rowing used to be done. So if you go look at the old boat sheds there, that's where Wits Road, Vikings, Wemmer still there. Old Ed's used to have a shed there. It's worthwhile. That'll be good fun. As we mentioned earlier on, 2 weeks after that, down in Western Cape is the Elgin Masters Regatta. You can contact Arena McDonald. She told me via WhatsApp they're organizing wine tasting. There's a lot of beautiful sort of farms around there where people can book. So that looks like it's going to be good fun. You've seen some photos about what that is that a lake or a dam looks like. Anyone who enjoys wine and good music, tomorrow night, St. Andrews Rowing Club. So that's in St. Andrews near Betterview. They've got a food and wine. And then another little thing again, sorry, it's up a Gauteng again, but there's a Learn to Row that's starting. It's starting already this Saturday. You can get hold of Ronelle Price Hughes. Her email's at the bottom there. It's $1,500 for 5 weeks. And basically that's for people wanting to start to row. You're going to get some sort of direction from Dan Lowe about what to do, some video footage and things like that. The other two things that are also worth looking at, there's a long row on Sunday the 25th, and that is something different. It is bloody cold. It's very early, and I think you row about 21, 22.
No, it's more, 25.
Is it?
I think it's 25. Because wasn't the record, Ben, about 1 hour and 45 minutes?
It is. I think for a scull on the long row, it's about 1 hour and 45 minutes. So whether you want to set a record or just go enjoy a nice long row, have some bacon and eggs and maybe some champagne afterwards. It's a nice special part of rowing. And then the other one.
That sounds fast, that 145 in a scull.
It sounds
fast.
We also
did a 151 last year, so let's.
I know, yeah, but sorry. So what we've got to correct there, and so now we're getting technical. The old start used to be a Ligwa, and as I understand, the new start is another 3 or 4 k's up river.
Okay.
So so you can probably add another 15 minutes or so to that. And then the other one that's worth it, and for people who aren't aware, there's the Head of the Bay in Durban. The great thing there, except for 1 year where it was bitterly cold, most times it feels like it's summer still. So Head of the Bay in Durban, if you've never rowed in the bay, never rowed past a big boat, a tanker or something, that's also a great experience. That is the formal part of our Zoom call sort of done. We just want to, so anybody who wants to log off from now, feel free to do so. For everybody else, we're just going to take, if Ramon and Rika, you guys happy just to hang on for 5 minutes just for some questions from the guys?
Yeah,
sure.
Cool.
I've got one, and Rika, I'm going to ask you this one. It's come through from Richard Kenlock. Thanks, Richard. So he said, hey guys, great interview. He said, how do you rate high without rushing the slide? And what exercise would you recommend to help with it? So, and I'd say somebody who's a fairly seasoned rower, but obviously trying to avoid, trying to go faster without rushing. How would you work that?
Well, we have to figure out why he is rushing. Is it a mobility thing? Is it a skilled thing, timing at the catch, anxious personality, things like that? I have, since my involvement in CrossFit and coaching a lot with many of the other sports, I've changed my rowing style quite a bit to mirror more some of the Olympic lifts. So I call it the double hip explode. There are several different versions of rhythms, from pausing at the finish and then what I would call a rush to the catch. Faster hands, faster hips, whatever you want to call it, but I focus a lot on the hips. So I feel when I get my hips, so the hip explode, come to the finish, and if I also explode, but in the closed position, I get my shoulders forward quite quickly, and then that leaves me a lot of time feel relaxed and not stress and panic, because I am in the body preparation where the shoulders are in front of the hips, the pelvis is at the right angle, to have enough time to only focus on my catch at the front end and wait for the boat to come underneath me.
Thanks, Rika. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We're dealing with a lot of anxious athletes.
Have a shot of whiskey there in your water bottle and we'll sort it out quick.
There we go, Richard. A shot of whiskey in your water bottle. Boy.
And Rich, we'll also bring this up when we do technique, hopefully next week or the week thereafter. What we want to try to do, and again, it would be good to have sort of Rika and Ramon as well around, is just some drills, just some basic drills of what Rika's sort of saying of, finishing properly. So, get the drive, like Ramon's saying, get the drive right on the legs so you get the acceleration. move the hips, and then do drills of just slowing yourself down and trying to understand the difference of the rhythm of legs fast, and you break it as you come up. Should we go with that second question? Because that's a good one. And maybe, Ramon, you can jump in here as the first answer.
Yeah, so the second one is, so Ramon, think about deadlifts as a strengthening exercise for the lower back. Do you suggest any other exercises for the lower back?
Yeah, so deadlifts are a good one. Being able to clean, because that's also engages the back quite a lot. For me, I had quite a lot of problems with the lower back. So again, working your stomach actually helps your lower back out of a lot and helps you access the muscles in the lower back. Because when you are tight and you're weak on either front or back, you battle to coordinate the lift or the rowing stroke. So I think, yeah, deadlifts, cleans, that all works.
Ramon, and also what we can do is we'll send out, there's a YouTube video, and I'm trying to remember now what it's called. It's called Core Strength or something. I actually got it from Bruce Turvey.
Yeah.
And again, they've got a nice set of drills. It'd be interesting to see what, I'd like Rika to look at it and see what she thinks. But again, they've just got a bunch of things that does your stomach, your lower back in this quite interesting position. And again, like Ramon said, those people who have had injuries, I get nervous doing deadlifts and cleans, thinking I'm going to injure myself. So
yeah. Even just doing stomach, I found just doing stomach exercises, you know, it helped me balance, and I became stronger. And again, it's all where you're coming from. I mean, I was heavily overweight. My stomach was weak. So for me, I think any one of these exercises will work. It's just, I suppose, just focusing on where you feel like you're deficient.
Rika, your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is, why does he want to do something specific for the lower back? Does he feel he's weak, and how does the weakness present, or is there just pain? I would go into the hips. I would go hip and shoulder mobility, so that you can unload the lower back, especially to help with breathing. So when the shoulders and then the lower back is very tight, you struggle with breathing as well. And the lower back, when the hips are tight, with a combination with tight shoulders, it throws the lower back into the under the bus. So the lower back position is always sacrificed. So I would go with the alignment and see where your alignment is currently. If you take a photo from the side, you look for the ear over the shoulder, kind of what angle your rib cage is, then the hip, the knee, the ankle bone. And most of us feel that, I see that the pelvis has drifted forward and that the rib cage is flared, and that compresses the lower back. And then everything that you're wanting to get from the glutes then gets thrown onto the lower back. So I would go hip mobility, a lot of it. Probably something very bring in rotational from the waist. I call my exercises one leg runners, like one leg runners with rotation. First, so you can get access to your glutes or even feel what it is to have a glute. And then in combination with that, usually when the lower back is really tight, you have very tight ankles / calves and also very tight quads. I would leave the deadlifts for later.
Rika, you've thrown so many of these things, and I've been writing them down because I wanted to put them into the show notes. But I'm like, the double hip explode, the faster hands, faster hips. It's so interesting that you say these things, because I've heard of some of these before, but I'm not exactly sure how to incorporate that into my training. But at the same time, this has been very helpful for me as well. Thank you. And I really appreciate the time that you guys have given to us to explain, you know, what it is, you know. And I told Ben, half an hour is not enough. We need a few hours with Rika and Ramon, because you guys have got way too much information to share. So I really appreciate it.
And just a point there. You can communicate a lot in different crews with people through rowing. So the best way to improve is to try and row with someone who's rowed longer than you. and you will pick up quite quickly, or you'll be able to transfer that sensation. And then that puts you on a better path to, like, for yourself, for what you want to train, what you want to get stronger, where you want to get more flexible. So we should as masters row, you know, across clubs. Try row with guys that have been rowing with longer than you. Try row with guys that are better than you, because you're going to learn a lot like that.
That's actually a great point. And I actually said, if I could say, I would have closed with this, except that there's one more question still here to go. But just the fact that you guys are both freely giving your knowledge, and by pure accident, you know, we've picked two people who, and I'm not saying this to butter you up, who genuinely love the sport. I loved your comment, Rika, about you row because you love to row. And then Ramon, your just approach of, yep, row with other people, find ways to do it, you know, make this work. I mean, this is the whole beauty of what, you know, this little carrot at the end of having masters here is done. So that's fantastic. Let's ask this one more question, and then we'll look to close. And I think this is a good one, because this is, I suppose, what a lot of novices or people new are talking about. So the question just basically says, where can one find an actual training program to build up to a race, covering strength, technique, drills, etc., to prepare the body? If anybody wants to have a go, and then we can sort of answer it sort of as a group.
Well, again, it's just consulting with local coaches. We've actually got a lot of guys that are pretty knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. And I think it's just about approaching guys and asking them for the help. Like, there'll be a lot of coaches that are way better than me at formulating a program. You know, I'd be better at helping people on a technical aspect or form, or be able to try and translate what I feel the rowing stroke should feel like. So we got tons of good coaches. I just think we don't go out there and ask. You must.
Rika, your thoughts? And any last comments before we close off?
Well, this for me, this is my job. This is what I do. I have very few rowers actually that I coach, but I you know, helping bodies move better, rehab, getting out of pain, things like that. So people end up with me in my private practice where the chiro didn't work, the physio didn't work, the strength coach didn't help, the bioconnectors didn't help, and the next op is like, oh, well, let's see if operation will work, and they're not so keen on that. So this is what I've been doing for about now, 10, 12 years. So I've done a ton of research on my own. I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of stalking of other coaches. You know, can I buy you coffee and sit in the corner? I've also had really, really bad injuries, and I did all the standard rehab that didn't work for me. And then I said, well, there must be something out there. If I have the problem, there's a solution somewhere, and I have to go and find it. I am not so passionate about, you know, planning 12-week programs and 18-week things. I take very much into account of where you are now, because if today was 10 times 1,500 meters at race pace, and last night you had load shedding, your generator blew up and your kid was throwing up, you're just not going to perform today. So I like to be very much hands-on and work with people fairly individually where they are in their journey. Because let's say none of us are training for the Olympics or hoping that, oh, after the Masters Regatta, I'm going to try and qualify for Paris. We do this because we love it. Maybe Ramon likes to row with people. I'm a single sculler. I don't. Reinhard still keeps asking if I row the double, and you know, he has to pay me lots of money for one race type of thing. So I like people to move better, whether you want to go and climb Kilimanjaro, whether you want to win a medal at Masters Regatta.
Cool, perfect.
And so Rika, so somebody's come and said apparently you do amazing virtual courses that even novices can take part in. Is there anything that you're doing on that front?
I don't have a novice course at the moment, but I do, you know, when COVID hit, it's like if you don't switch what you do, because it was all hands-on in-person training, like you're not going to have an income at the end of the month. So I've luckily had a rowing machine that I dug out, dusted off, and started doing online rowing classes. And I continue to still have some American lines. None of them are rowers. They just want to row because it's good. It's not impact. We do a lot of rehab. They all feel better. They can hit the tennis ball harder. They can climb mountains better, that type of thing. So at the moment, there's nothing, but if they're interested, we can get something together. They're welcome to contact me and see if there's something we can work out.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Rika. So we'll put your details on the show notes afterwards.
Yeah, and then let's do the following. So thanks for everyone for sort of attending, and Ramon and Rika for sharing your knowledge. And again, I'm going to say it again, it really is cool. It's inspirational that people like you who've been all the way, you know, to the Olympics and even brought back medals, that you're willing to give freely and still passionate. And that's probably the best thing about sort of our own community. So thank you very much for your time. What I would like to ask is, so a couple of things. So one, any stuff you have got, let's get it together and we can put it on one of the next calls. I think a lot of the things that have been discussed about mobility, hips, different types of strength exercises, etc. Even that whole thing about sort of ears over your hips type of thing, making that visual will help a lot of people. Secondly, as Ramon said, what we'll do, there are coaches out there, but of course, if you don't know who they are and it's a bit awkward to go up, what we will do as a community is get for the next Zoom call, you know, we'll speak to a couple of the coaches out there, young and old, and just say, do they mind if we get their names, email addresses, and we'll find a way for people to find those answers. Who can help me with the training program? Who can help me with this type of thing? And at least then, you know, people can find a way to do these things better. Lastly, then, we've sort of, as I said, we planned for 5 of these. Next one is likely to be technique. The one after that is just setting boats up a little bit better. We want to understand a little bit about the Masters regattas. And then we actually might come back to a lot of what's been spoken about tonight in the preventative maintenance, and maybe get some images or pictures or videos to really be able to see this concept of mobility of the hips, getting the body over, and therefore answering the question of how do we avoid, you know, having back pain and things like that. If you sort of enjoyed this, you've got other questions, you think there's another topic that would be hugely useful, or even something more from this call, just get hold of Rob and I. You can probably get hold of us through one of the WhatsApp groups. Just track us down either through sort of Ravens, through Sam, or anything else like that. But we'd be interested to see if you got some value out of these calls. Thanks again, Rika. Thanks, Ramon. Really appreciate your time. And
Cool.
for those people who joined, cool. Thanks. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too.